T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, green board, 5, 4, 3, main engine start, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Delta rocket with Mars Pathfinder. And the vehicle has cleared the tower.
NASA was created in 1958 during the Cold War and space race with the Soviet Union. Fast forward to the early 1990s, and NASA's purpose was no longer clear. The war was over and we had already won the race. Congressional support was small and money was running low. NASA needed to accomplish something big to prove their position, and thus the pressure was immense. Projects from the 1980s, such as the Jupiter Orbiter Galileo or Mars Observer, all experienced setbacks and overspending. So in 1992, Dan Golden, the NASA administrator, implemented the faster, better, cheaper approach to project management in hopes to fix this problem. Projects were to be done in reduced time with smaller budgets, and by flying more missions at once, the scientific findings would be heightened. Among the first of these projects was the Pathfinder mission, NASA's attempt to put a rover on Mars to collect samples from this unknown planet. This ambitious project brought many firsts, including the Jet Propulsion Laboratory's first female project leader, Donna Shirley. Shirley's interest in space exploration began at the young age of 12 when she read Arthur C. Clarke's book, The Sands of Mars. At only 15, she began taking flying lessons, and by 16, she was flying solo. After graduating high school, she attended the University of Oklahoma and studied to be an aeronautical engineer. College life was not easy for Shirley. She dealt with discrimination from her peers, professors, and the University of Oklahoma staff.
And I walked into to my faculty advisor's office, and he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm here to major in aeronautical engineering." He says, "Girls can't be engineers."
After finishing college, she began work at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, also known as JPL. In 1966, she was the only female engineer among 2,000 male engineers. Though she was extremely outnumbered, her hard work, potential, and academic ability were able to shine through. Shirley's profound interest in Mars exploration pushed her career at JPL in the right direction. For her first major project, she was put on a team to add a heat-resistant shield to a space vehicle that was designed to thrive in Mars' atmosphere. After years of hard work as a mission analyst, in 1987, Shirley began leading research into Martian rovers. This life-changing opportunity allowed Donna's childhood dream to come true, but first she had to convince Tony Spear, the Mars Pathfinder lander project manager, to include her project. Shirley and Spear didn't get along well, and their arguments could be heard throughout the halls of Building 230. When the mission was approved, Spear advocated for a new rover manager and eventually tried to build a rover of his own in hopes that Shirley's wouldn't be flown. He gave $65,000 of his own project money to Lon Lane and ordered him to build a rover. Lane refused twice, but Spear insisted, saying he needed options. However, with the support of distinguished NASA scientists including Hank Moore and Matt Golombek, and numerous successful demonstrations of Rocky, the first rover prototype, Shirley's team was able to win over the public and press. Without the rover, the mission would only be a landing technology demonstration, and no one would pay over $171 million to show we can land on Mars again.
So the focus was on how do we land with a low cost on Mars, and to do it in 3 years, like Ed said. But then there was in my office a lady by the name of Donna Shirley. She was an engineer working on robotics. She comes to me and said, "You remember that rover we showed you a few weeks ago? We think we can build that rover in time to put it on the mission."
So reluctantly, Spear approved the project. Donna and her new team wanted to design the rover in the smartest way possible. The engineers fashioned 2 black and white cameras in the front of the rover and 1 color camera in the rear of the rover in order to capture full images of Mars. Working alongside the front cameras, a laser system found obstacles and helped Sojourner avoid them. An alpha-proton X-ray spectrometer was used to discover the elemental composition of various rocks and soils on the planet's terrain, as the rover ran off solar power and a non-rechargeable battery. This hurt her team because it limited nocturnal research on the planet. The rover was unique because of its small size, as it was only 23 pounds, allowing for it to easily move across the terrain at a maximum speed of 2 feet per minute. In the midst of the chaos creating the rover, Congress approved and funded NASA's Mars Surveyor program. This meant a new position opened up, Mars Program Manager, and Shirley applied. Either Tony Spear or Glenn Cunningham, manager of Mars Global Surveyor, were the obvious choices, but much to everyone's surprise and Spear's demise, Shirley was selected for the job. She received so much praise from her co-workers, including letters of congratulations with comments like, "You make a statement for womankind," and "You've left glass all over the floor from that shattered ceiling." Shirley now got to improve her staff, choosing to hire women and minorities that were often excluded and forgotten on purpose. To maintain the faster, better, cheaper approach, Shirley put all business operations together, as opposed to each project having its own staff, and all outreaching programs were combined into the program office.
It was a fairly small project. The big projects have, 1,000 or 2 people working on them. Pathfinder had about 300, and the rover had 30.
The rover was completely built by early 1997, and the next challenge would be getting it into space. NASA's Pathfinder lander would contain the rover, and the Delta II rocket would launch both into space. The lander would then open up, releasing the rover for exploration. JPL held an essay writing contest to name the rover, and Shirley required it must be after a woman. The winning entry was by Valerie Amboise, a 12-year-old from Connecticut, whose essay suggested the rover be named after abolitionist and women's rights activist Sojourner Truth. The launch day quickly arrived, and on December 4th, 1996, Shirley and her team prepared for takeoff. Tensions were high because of how ambitious Shirley's project truly was. Delta II propelled Sojourner and Pathfinder out of Earth's atmosphere, from Cape Canaveral, Florida, and into space, beginning its 7-month journey to Mars.
This is a monument to man's ingenuity to place a spacecraft on the surface of Mars. And women.
On July 4th, 1997, the rover landed on Mars' Ares Vallis, an ancient floodplain chosen because of its abundance of rocks for Sojourner to analyze. The Pathfinder used a unique landing method, directly entering the thin Martian atmosphere. A parachute slowed the descent, and airbags softened the landing.
After the airbags have been retracted, the pedals have been opened, this camera device here will start moving around and look for the sun. As soon as it locates the sun, then it knows exactly where it's at, what angle it's at, where the Earth is at, and it can send up their high-gain antenna here to be able to get high-speed transmission back to Earth, and that's when the pictures will actually start.
The rover was supposed to explore Mars for 7 days, but actually explored for 3 months, covering 330 feet of the terrain. The lander brought back valuable information the world had never seen before, including 2.3 billion pieces of data and 17,000 photographs, 550 of which were from Sojourner. One of the biggest changes between the Pathfinder mission and previous ones was access to the internet. As images from Mars began being released, people overwhelmed servers in their search, causing network traffic to come to a complete standstill.
John, 200,000 hits on the internet so far this week. Some tremendous interest still being generated by this Mars Pathfinder and Sojourner mission.
The rocks Sojourner analyzed were often named after cartoon characters, including Yogi and Scooby-Doo. Determining the composition of Barnacle Bill was Sojourner's first task. The alpha proton X-ray spectrometer found that it contained more silica than the neighboring terrain, meaning that it is likely an indigenous rock and indicating past thermal activity on the planet. The most exciting piece of information, however, were pictures featuring round pebbles and conglomerate rocks that suggested the planet was richer in water than believed. These indicated the terrain was formed by floods that occurred within or near the Ares Vallis. The last data transmission collected from Pathfinder was at 10:23 Coordinated Universal Time on the 27th of September 1997, and the mission was officially ended on March 10, 1998. Over the next few years, NASA has continued making rovers inspired by Sojourner's success.
There's now been 4 going on 5 big rovers that would never have flown if it hadn't been for Sojourner.
The alpha proton X-ray spectrometer experiment was used by Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity. Curiosity is still exploring the planet today, and the newest rover, Perseverance, is planned to launch in July of 2020. Shirley retired from JPL in 1998 and began work as a professor for the University of Oklahoma. She was honored with many awards for her incredible work, such as the Washington Award for Engineering, Oklahoma's Annie Oakley Award, being inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame in Oklahoma, and more. Soon after the Pathfinder mission, Shirley published an autobiography, Managing Martians. This book details what life was like working on the mission and the struggle she faced to get there. Even though women only make up a third of NASA's workforce today, this is the highest the number has ever been. Donna Shirley broke barriers in the world of engineering for being the first person to successfully land a rover on Mars. Her journey was long and hard because of her gender, but through perseverance, she prevailed, showing women everywhere that you don't have to be a man to be an engineer, and gender does not define success.